There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonkō Table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonkō Table, the table that will make their dreams come true.
Yo!
We punched Soul enough.
Punching the soul.
We punched it right in the soul, straight to its core. Next up is Incredibles 2.
I might have put it. I think I had it lower.
I think I had a little bit higher.
I did have it lower.
I had it
I had
higher.
it higher. I had it higher.
I
Wait, that's one.
the
Oh yeah, you grabbed the
oops,
wrong
I thought
poster.
oops.
Better
It's an easy mistake
It's
because the posters are very similar. Because
Right.
these two
Because
plots
they're
are very
irrelevant.
similar. The villain's plot is very similar. The hero's plot is very similar. Everything is similar.
So with this movie, it had a production nightmare that I feel like because of that, I kind of was a little bit more easier on it. So apparently this movie came out in 2018. However, it was originally slated for 2019. The movie was switched to 2018 because Toy Story 4 was still not ready to release. So Brad Bird directing Incredibles 2, Pixar and Disney basically said release this a year earlier. You have to. Toy Story 4 takes precedent. So you're gonna have to make do with what you have. It apparently this is during Pixar's craze. It is still during Pixar's craze of a movie every year, and you can tell that there were some plot elements missing in Incredibles 2 compared to the other one. Because I mean, I did a deep dive on this for like Brad Bird. There were a lot of things he wanted to do with Incredibles 2 that he couldn't because he had 1 year less to develop the movie. Wow. And that's a shame because people were waiting for this movie for
years.
Over a decade.
Over a decade, yeah.
And it doesn't fall into the trap of a prequel. Like people, this things happened. You know, people wanted to see what happened after. I do have to. I was talking with the Lady Chrome, and they said that they found like real enjoyment out of it because it's a very sapphic storyline. Because a woman is like freeing herself from the familial and domestic constraints, and to see that, and to see the villain who doesn't fit into like the stereotypical like gendered roles, like by looks, by station, by by perceived intelligence, is nice to see. And they find a lot of enjoyment, and they said that a lot of other women and a lot of AFAB people find this movie enjoyable because of the sapphic storytelling. So I just have to throw that in there because I thought it was a different perspective that I didn't necessarily consider.
I like that aspect, and that was something I was going to talk about with this film is, in the beginning where Mr. Incredible's like, yeah, go, I can handle it, and I can do it, whatever. And like, it's something easy that she's doing. And then he finally is with the kids and trying to deal with Violet and her emotions. And then he needs help with math and all this stuff. And he realizes and he realizes how much she does at home. It's like a job. And then she's going to pursue her career as Elastigirl and coming back and all of that. So that's something that I really liked about this film. Was it like, oh my gosh, best film ever? No, but I like that they threw that in there, the switching of gender roles and all that.
I believe the best parts of the Incredible films, both films, is the familial aspects of the films. Like those are the most kind of like, they keep you seated, because if not, they'd just be another run-of-the-mill superhero film. So the role reversal for me was fine. It's just the fact of the matter is I love Elastigirl taking the lead here, but it's just the lead in the same story because it's literally the role reversal, and it is a disgruntled, non-superpowered person trying to get rid of Soups. Right? They call them Soups. No, they don't. Supers.
Supers.
Soups. That's the boys.
The boys.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the same plot. The villain has the same grievances with supers, and I feel the world building in Incredibles is also really good. And what people from a 10-year plus gap of between a sequel and the original, we wanted to see that world built more. But this film did the weird thing of picking up right after the original.
That was an odd choice.
Yes. And I would say many people did not like that choice because
it retconned the GameCube game.
Well,
right?
There was a GameCube game where you played as Mr. Incredible in Frozone, and you had to take on the mole?
The Underminer.
The Underminer. So yeah, it was just like it was like two steps back in this world building. Now they did talk a little bit about it, and it makes sense that maybe supers are not necessarily right away welcome back, but it was still kind of stagnant as far as where we left off in the original film. So I just feel the sequel didn't push itself enough to where it could be, because the first world building in the first Incredibles was amazing. The familial structure was amazing, and this sequel just fell short. It just didn't live up to what it could have been.
Yeah. I that was the one part that I actually liked about Incredibles 2, was kind of like how they reversed basically what happened in Incredibles 1. Bob was the one sneaking out and wanting to be a superhero and live the life, while he was leaving Elastigirl to take care of the kids, the family, have a family. This time it's reversed. Elastigirl's living the dream of being a soup in broad daylight in public. She doesn't have to hide it. Whereas Bob is the one that has to take care of the kids, help Violet with her emotional troubles. And I like that part of it. But yeah, I think this would have benefited from like a time jump from Incredibles 1.
Yes.
Like show the heroes established already. And you can still keep this plot element. You could still have it where, Elastigirl is still the one going out being the hero while Bob has to stay home and take care of the kids. And a lot of the story beats you can keep the same, but I feel like it loses itself because when you're waiting like 15 years for a sequel to one of the best Pixar movies ever made, you kind of wanted progress. You wanted progress to take place.
Or even if they just switched, how the villain hates supers, like somehow connect the villain to like the first movie or something like that. But it was really the same, first villain hated supers, this villain hates supers.
I hate them. And she had a weird reason for hating them too. Because they were over reliant on them, right?
The parents.
No,
the parents were. The parents were.
Yeah.
Therefore, we should get rid of super. I don't know.
The supers didn't get there in time, and her parents died.
Time out. Was that her whole thing? She wanted to get rid of all the supers, though. That was her end goal.
Yes.
She wanted to. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think I don't remember the logistics of it, but I remember
the plot was. I'm pretty sure the plot was that she wanted to make it more like, more politics in it, as in just like making sure that the supers are not doing any superhero works or anything. I mean, she couldn't do anything about like just getting rid of them, but she just wanted to just like keep the same standard as just like use another, use a normal human being.
Them,
right?
Yeah. Sounds to me like a bad plot. Nobody can give me a definitive.
I will say that this movie was like really memeable. Like there's a lot of memes with it, and I like it.
Oh, you have one in the background.
Is that your standard, Mr. Bombastic?
What are the memes?
That's the thing as well.
Where are the memes?
we're in a new standard now. But yeah, I think they were trying to like make it more like about just the small details here and there, like the math and math is kind of thing, or like the scene where Violet just like launches like water from her nose.
Yes.
Yeah.
And come on, Edna and the baby. That was hilarious.
That was nice.
All right, that's not enough. You can make a TV show out of that, not a movie.
They made a short
Correct.
out of it. There was one of the shorts showing shenanigans.
I think my favorite parts were like Mr. Incredible struggling with parenting.
Yeah,
Those
again,
were so funny.
The
Like,
best parts are the familial.
what does he say? He says cookie or something.
Cookie.
Yeah, he's so exhausted and tired.
I did like the math part. It's like, you can't change math. Math is math.
And I think this movie really, I think it would be better if it didn't have the twist villain. I think that dealing with the reemergence of supers into this world and then having Elastigirl be that head, be that face to reintroduce supers to the world is a good enough premise, like by itself.
Mm-hmm.
It is. No,
Like,
I agree.
You know what? I think it would make it better if like the reasoning why the main villain did it was because you remember the first scene that I mean not the first scene in the first movie where Bob and Frozen were doing a fire mission or something like that.
Oh
Yeah, the
yeah, they
robbery.
listened to the police dispatch.
So what if like they didn't save everybody and like they didn't save like parents of her and like it actually caught on to her and made everything just like go on to Incredibles 2. I think that would have been more relatable
Yeah, like
and more like
connecting it, you know?
Take it to the
Yeah.
fan fictions on Reddit.
The fan fictions.
I'll make sure to let them know.
We will let them know. I mean, yeah, this could have been a better movie. It was fine on its own, but being Incredibles, it just could have been so much more, especially being one of the few sequels that we've gotten from any franchise outside of Cars. But we are in sequelitis territory for number 18.
Toy Story 4.
Four? Come on. Why do you guys think 4 is that bad?
4 is the inferior. It's the bastard child of the Toy Story franchise.
I agree, but I don't think it's number 18.
I think so.
I mean, I think I
Toy
had
Story
it
1.
higher. If it is Toy Story 4.
I will tell you,
I
there is
definitely
a
had it
worse
lower.
film. There is a worse film.
Oh
than
no,
Toy Story
actually no.
4.
This is where I pretty much had Toy Story 4.
AJ doesn't like Toy Story, or I'm sorry, Dr. Jace doesn't like Toy Story 2, and that's
No,
my
I like Toy
favorite
Story
one.
2. I love Toy Story 2. I love.
Do you think
love
Oh
Three?
no, wait, hold up. Then you're gonna be mad about this one. He said sequelitis, so if it's not Toy Story 4, then it's Finding Dory.
Gasp! It is Finding Dory. Bam! It's Finding Dory.
Finding Dory.
No, you don't. You do not
Okay.
like Finding Dory.
Finding Dory, out of all, okay, so compared to Monsters University, Incredibles 2, Cars franchise, Toy Story is a whole separate thing. Finding Dory is the superior sequel, although it is also cut and paste.
But at least they connect it. At least they connect it to the first.
How? How's it connected to
They
the first?
literally show how.
How she got there?
Yeah.
Which was her just asking, where am I?
Hi, I'm Dory.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dory. I don't know. I think I had it around this spot. I don't know.
I had it higher.
Yeah,
I had it higher
higher.
as well.
I found
I
a
think I
deeper
had a top
appreciation.
15.
Oh man. I mean, I like who voiced the octopus?
That is the dude from Love
Family
and
Matters.
Marriage.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
What's
Wow.
his name? Or from that other show, Modern
Ted
Family.
Bundy. His name's
Ted Bundy. No, that's his.
That's his.
Ed Bundy. Ed
Ed
Bundy.
Bundy.
Why'd you agree? Why'd you
No,
say
be-
yes? It
I
was
never
him.
realized how close
Yes,
their
the serial
names
killer.
were.
Yeah, Ted Bundy from the grave.
What's
Ted
that
Bundy.
show called? Married with Children.
Married with Children.
Oh, his
Right.
name is Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill. There it is. Yeah.
Ed
I said
Bundy.
Family Matters, but I also meant
Al Bundy.
Children.
It's Al Bundy.
Bundy.
Not
Wait,
Ed-
who is the actor? Al Bundy? Or
The character is Al Bundy. Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill.
Okay, got it. Yeah, Finding Dory was just copy and paste of Finding Nemo. I mean, it had some new elements to it, like, you know, going into the aquarium, meeting the octopus. I like the octopus. The octopus was like probably the best new character. And then Idris Elba as the seal. The seals.
The
Come on, okay.
I love the seals.
The seals
But
were
you-
funny.
No, give the other seal credit too. That's Dominic West.
I said seals.
Yes, but he
I-
said Idris Elba. Dominic West and Idris Elba, they are famous because they were both opposite sides of the hit HBO show The Wire.
I didn't watch that, so
I didn't-
I recognize Idris Elba, and I'm like, oh, Idris Elba. There
Real
he is.
fans recognize them
I
both.
thought the seals were funny. I thought the octopus was funny. I thought the
Beluga whale
the beluga whale, that she's blind. She's like,
and the whale shark.
yes. And he's like, don't you see how swollen my head is? He's from Modern Family.
Yes, he is. That's Ty. Gosh darn it! Why are these names escaping me today?
Yeah, you're citing serial killers, and
I thought all the new characters were good.
The characters of Finding Nemo are not the problem.
Finding Nemo or Finding Dory.
Finding Nemo franchise. All the
Okay.
characters in the Finding Nemo, Ty Burrell, that's his name.
Yeah.
All the characters in the Finding Nemo franchise are relatively really good and funny characters. But yeah, this film is more or less a copy and paste. Except they dropped the adventure. They dropped the journey.
You know who
That
they
was a
dropped? They
journey.
dropped Marlin and Nemo.
They did drop Marlin and Nemo. It's
They
not their
did.
story.
It's not their story. I was okay with that.
But why did they even have them? You know, why not just have them be like in the beginning, like, hey, where's Dory? And Dory was like, hey, I'm gonna come back. And then you know what I mean?
Because Dory helped Marlin get Nemo. They're returning the favor. That's their friend. They're a
then
family.
How come they can't have a bigger part in the movie? Then if that's Dory's family, why can't they have a bigger part in the movie?
They got separated.
Oh.
What more you want?
Excuses.
You want them there, right there next to Dory the whole time?
Hi, I'm
Yes.
Yes.
I want them to be there and to be like from our family to yours, like have that moment. But no, you know what we get
can't
just
get
I
that.
think it's
shenanigans.
because Marlin is always kind of like Dory's crutch. They show in the beginning how she's like, hey, Marlin, she said, go back to sleep. Hey, Marlin, go back to sleep. And she did it by herself. That was the whole point, because her parents would put out the little shells. When she was a girl, she's like, I did it all by myself. And she did it by herself. I think that's why they separated them.
I like that, actually.
I don't like that because in the first movie, the whole point was them working together would lead them to success, and also made them learn lessons that they wouldn't have been able to learn. And
I disagree, because I like that in Finding Nemo, you work together and stuff, but they kind of made Dory kind of seem like incapable, other than memorizing the address. Marlin kind of takes the lead on like where they should go, and we're gonna go here and there, and
does Dory seem incapable, or does Marlin doubt Dory at every single point?
All right. I don't want to get too much into Finding Nemo territory. However, I will say this. From what you're saying, Nino, Marlin had to learn to rely on Dory and not look at her as, what's the word? Incapable, but also a burden,
Mhm.
He didn't want to, because that's how he treated Nemo. In Finding Dory, this is Dory's story. The whole thing, her parents always said, despite her having short-term memory loss, her whole thing was, her parents always believed she could still do anything despite having that, disability. So with that said, this movie really showcases how she was able to navigate and find her way back to her parents, technically on her own, without Marlin and Dory. Now, also, Marlin and Nemo. Also, I'll say this too, I'm talking copy and paste. They separate these people or these fish because Finding Nemo's structure works well when you have two stories going on at the same time. Finding Nemo had an A and a B plot. And they gave Nemo and Marlin the B plot in this film. Copy and paste.
I just think that I don't like the messaging there, because especially for a lot of people with like that are neurodivergent, which Finding Nemo and Finding Dory are very big like allegories for like growing up with and dealing and living with like neurodivergency or mental illness. And it just like there's so much talk about like, oh, please always rely on your support system and like have a support system. I don't like the messaging that Dory did it alone. I wish that they could all have done it together, because in the end they support each other and love each other.
But they still supported each other regardless if they were together.
I just didn't like how it came out in this movie.
Yeah, but you may not like how it came out, but the support was there. That's why they were there. That's why they went with her. They just weren't together. So your argument for support, they're still there supporting her.
I just, you know what I mean? Like if for a movie, I just feel like they should have just kept them together instead of having so much shenanigans.
And then there's not that. It's, you know, if it's about the journey, Dory's journey is quite easy if she does it with them. And there's less of a movie. And that's what it comes down to.
They should have been a series.
It should not have been a short. Maybe should not have even been a sequel.
Oh, you wanted a prequel? Interesting.
No, you could have left Finding
How
Nemo
did
well
Marlin
enough
and oh god, what's her name?
You mean to tell me we can't just assume Dory grew up and moved out the house and ran into Marlin? She had to get lost.
You know what this sounds like? It sounds like Ellen DeGeneres was like, Disney, give me the movie where I star.
She was a big part of making this movie. She was definitely pushing for this movie to be made.
This was a Cars 2 scenario.
And now now look at her. People are pushing for her to stop making stuff.
Also, I do want to say that like this is the range where like from 18, maybe close to 19. This is like where the movie is not like bad, but it started going to that pretty good area of like movies in general.
Right. I think from starting with Incredibles 2 onward, we're kind of out of the territory of this movie was terrible. I can't stand watching this.
Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Because Onward still has to be on.
Listen, we're out of the absolutely garbage Pixar
And why haven't we talked about Onward yet?
We will talk about Onward right now because it's the next one.
I liked Onward.
Yeah, I like Onward.
I thought Onward was not terrible.
I really
Bad. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. It was the best movie ever. If your height of movies is like a C tier, like direct home to video movie, that's the best movie. That's the best direct home to video C tier movie ever. But it does not hit the stratosphere of anything else.
I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh my god, Onward in the top 10. It wasn't in my top 10, but it was. No. It was fine. It was a fine movie.
It was pretty hot there.
I enjoyed it more than any of the sequels, any of the sequelitis movies like Finding Dory, Incredibles 2, Monsters University, Cars. Well, Cars 2. Cars 2 was so much higher. But yeah, I thought for because this was after a time where Pixar kind of just stopped doing the whole sequel stuff that they've been cursed to do for like the previous like 5 years or so. So I think this being somewhat of a return to form, just like make a new adventure, I thought this was fine. Am I gonna be watching it again? Probably not. But
listen, the first time we watched it, Dr. Jace, you were with me. I fell asleep throughout like this entire movie.
I remember
because Captain Falcon and I watched it, and I was like, dang, I thought I was only asleep for like 5 minutes. I don't know.
And I told you this. You said I was only asleep for 5 minutes. No, you were asleep for an hour.
Yeah.
His go-to is I've been asleep for 5 minutes, but it's really an hour.
I missed this whole movie, and I can honestly say, looking at the list that we have already talked about, this one actually did move me to tears, and I think, yeah, I was surprised too. I was very surprised. I just think it was a fun movie. I think the two leads are pretty good, and we talk about world building. It was funny to see a lot of these scenarios with these mythical creatures, these magical creatures. Like you talk about the lackluster world building in Monsters University. Why the hell is the centaur driving a car? That's hilarious. That was so funny. Like
no.
The fact he could not fit in the
This
car.
is why you are wrong.
No, Onward. The world building in Onward to me suffers from the same thing as Monsters University. Lack of creativity. It's just capitalism, like 90s capitalism, America.
Yeah, and actually that's the whole point of the movie. They literally say the creature stopped using magic a long time ago.
I just can't look, I watched it. This was I think the first movie that came out during the pandemic.
It came out in 2020. It got hit by the pandemic, like it was
because it released in theaters.
And they pulled it out and put it to Disney Plus.
Right.
So yeah.
So when I watched this movie and I just can't go back to it. I just find it very mid. Like it's not a bad made film, but it's just I enjoyed Finding Dory and Incredibles 2 a lot more than Onward.
No. I could say that's debatable.
I will say Incredibles 2 and Finding Dory were higher on my list than Onward, but I enjoyed Onward. I liked, oh my gosh, when they started doing the list and he started checking off the things, I lost it. I was crying because then he realizes his brother was there the whole time doing kind of filling that father role, and then he lets him be the one to meet him even though that's what he wanted. Oh my goodness, that was a great,
look at what he slept.
Why couldn't they both see him?
The point, she just said why.
I literally just said why.
That's the point.
That's the whole point.
Well, why?
I don't know.
Because they both couldn't see him, and he said, "You know what? I've had my brother. That was your father figure because you didn't have anybody else. Mm-hmm. I had you." And I actually, talking about vocal performances, Tom Holland. Thank God Dr. Mondo's not here. I think Tom Holland really did a really nice job voice performance here. Chris Pratt as well, even if you don't like Chris Pratt, but
it's just forgettable in this movie to me. I think this movie is very forgettable, and I would like to forget it.
But you haven't.
Because he was just reminded.
Not by my own choosing.
But I agree though. Like where we are right now, I feel I can interchange these films
easily.
Yeah. Depending on my
around the same tier.
This is where we're probably going to disagree on a lot of films placement. I think we were all on the same page that Cars relatively belong towards the bottom, but now this is where heads might start butting. So above Onward at number 16. Interesting.
It has to be.
It has to be Turning Red. It cannot be this higher up.
No, for me, Luca.
No,
interesting.
I'll say
because whatever you say, you're saying A Bug's Life is better than whatever is out here.
I'm saying Inside Out.
No,
Inside Out is very. I don't think it's Inside Out.
I'm saying.
I really do think it's A Bug's Life.
Unfortunately, Nino's on the money. It is A Bug's Life.
I've been on the money.
I will admit, I'm glad it made it this far. I'm glad it made it.
I'm not. I went back and watched this film, and you want to know something? It is a terrible film.
Why?
It's not a terrible film.
It's not.
It's not a terrible film.
A terrible film.
I'm exaggerating, but let me tell you something. The movie doesn't. It's the characters, all the ants. I wish they were squashed. The grasshoppers, we don't talk about. The only great part of the movie that I actually laughed and enjoyed were the circus. Everything else is forgettable. It's not fun. It's not cool. I don't like it.
Who do you speak for? Just yourself, I hope, right?
Right.
Society.
Everybody as a whole.
I liked A Bug's Life. I don't know. This was probably the one movie that I had not seen the longest. Like in terms of like when was the last time I saw it? This was definitely like when I was a child, like when the last time I watched it.
We were 4 years old when this movie came out. Some people 1 or 2.
Some people 1 or 2. I liked A Bug's Life, man. Kevin Spacey is not in the limelight anymore for very good reason, but I thought his performance as Hopper, it was intimidating.
Hopper is top tier Disney Pixar villains.
He is very intimidating villain, whether that's a comparison to how he was as a person in real life, but he was very intimidating in this movie. I think he's one of the better villains in Pixar's catalog, and maybe that's just going to the vocal performance. The main character Flick, I don't know. I kind of just shrug at. He's kind of.
No, I like Flick.
I like him, but like
bad.
I feel like he's
I didn't care
kind
for
of
him.
forgettable. I don't know.
Listen,
he's like,
He's
I
a
don't
little
know.
Listen, when Flick steps up, leave her alone. Out of all the ants, he's the only one.
You want her?
And
Go ahead, take her.
right, and then
That's Kevin Spacey, not Flick.
But Flick's journey by the end of the film, Flick stands up the same scenario. He's got Dot in his hand, and he's like, and he realizes he's like, ants don't serve grasshoppers. It's you that needs us.
I like that.
And you know it, don't you? And he calls Hopper out on his BS. It was good. It was good because it's not at that point where all the other ants too realize that they outnumber the
They were just falling in line.
It's Flick who has to make them realize it. And
but here's the thing. Here's the issue with that. Flick as a character is completely terribly written. Is he supposed to be confident? Is he supposed to be a scared little baby at the beginning? He's a mixture of everything. Why is there a romance plot in this movie? Why? Answer me that.
I mean,
I wouldn't call it a romance plot. There's a romance element.
People fall in love.
It's not a plot.
But I wouldn't say it's a plot because it's
it doesn't move the plot along.
He's not doing all this stuff to impress her, and she's
But
not.
this-
I don't know. I think she just was attracted to him.
I would not call it a
Like,
romance
oh, wow.
plot. No.
But the scenes would make you believe because they spend so much. There's like multiple scenes in the movie where it's just like they force them together through as the plot's moving forward, and it's just like, oh, let's check in with how they're doing.
What, like when
as
their
the plot's
antenna
moving
gets
forward.
tangled with each
Yeah,
other?
and-
That
oh
was
my God,
that was fine. That was
I think
funny.
I think him being kind of all over the place was kind of the point, like being confident but then also scared. Like that's kind of how you approach any type of situation that's like kind of stepping up
intimidating.
But also with the romance plot, you want to call it a romance plot, this whole time he's building trust, and they now trust him, and they now actually see the worth in Flick, but at the same time he's lying. He's making the lie worse and worse. The closer he grows to Princess Ada, that's gonna make the truth bomb hurt even more, and
But
that's what's happening.
I just don't believe that a cowardly little shaky little ant that he's supposed to be would ever do something like that. I really do feel
that's the point though. That's the point.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't.
and there's a bunch of scenes in this movie, especially with like the ants, like the dialogue is terrible. It's like, oh, I know, I'm just so upset that I can't do this, and then explains heavy exposition after exposition and like trying to mask it as character features. The ants don't have any characteristics. They're just like, we are ants and we don't trust Flick and we're so suffering. Oh no, boo hoo. Every single ant is like that. Flick is the only one that is just terribly written. I went back and watched this film and I was like, I wasted 90 minutes of my life.
No, BS.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
you are.
I wouldn't put it that
I
far.
will watch this movie again with you because you are off Only like seven
you're gonna
ants have
explain it
only
to him.
7 ants have like any kind of character in this film. So the
Wrong.
fact that you say
they're all the same character.
no,
What I will say, I feel like this was supposed to be more of like a technical marvel for Pixar at the time, because before this movie was only Toy Story 1. And I remember even as a kid, like the behind the scenes documentary, they were really emphasizing how many things they could put on the screen at once from a computer animated
The water,
scene.
the water,
The water.
especially just the simple telescope. I remember
Yeah, the reflection,
that
like
looked cool.
yeah,
That was cool.
it looked cool. It looked
But
cool. Showing
I will
100
say
ants on screen, it was good.
Yeah, I will say that I had when I was a kid, I had like the 3 DVD box set of Toy Story 1, but Bug's Life, and then Toy Story 2. And they had like the features and stuff like that. And yeah,
Right.
it definitely did seem like this movie. They really emphasized like the same thing with Tarzan. And I think they came out in relatively the same amount of time. The
Mhm.
featurettes they're either focused on. I'm just comparing Tarzan to this movie. We're focused on like the technology that it took to animate certain sequences, and then I was like, and now looking back on it, it's just like you did not mention anything about the story that needs to be told or anything like that. You were just talking about how difficult it was to make this movie.
They wanted to up the ante that much. I can
the
definitely
ante.
agree. Which was better, Bug's Life or Ants? Not here.
A
to
Bug's
tell.
Life.
Bugs Life.
Bugs Life is
Okay.
better
Ooh.
because Ants is a Woody Allen film, so it's very weird. Two ant movies.
Don't go
that
down the
are-
rat.
Don't
Well,
go down the rabbit hole. Don't
Okay,
go
but
down-
no, 2 ant movies.
Rabbit hole.
Movies.
There's a
that
history
are-
with it.
There is a
reason.
history. There
There's
is
a
a
reason
history.
why.
Yeah,
There's a
and
reason
then
why.
okay, but why do the 2 ant movies that came out in a very specific year both are tied to like pedophiles and predators?
there is a history.
There's a history.
Rabbit hole.
Even with that, I guess. There's a history. And maybe somewhere down the line we'll do a DreamWorks ranking list for DreamWorks films, and we'll go down the rabbit hole for.
Hell, when DreamWorks is accessible to everyone.
Oh, right. They don't have an accessible streaming list at the moment.
Not
Buy
yet.
the movies. Just buy the movies, all of them.
Just
No.
buy the 4K.
I'm not
collector's
buying
box.
Turbo.
What's wrong with? You know what? No,
I haven't seen it.
We're
I
not
haven't
here.
seen it. Rabbit hole. Oh no.
Right up next after A Bug's Life, I had this a lot lower on my list.
Brave.
It is Brave. It is. I don't know.
So-
Like when I originally watched Brave, I didn't think much of it. It was kind of like one of the few Pixar movies that I was like, it's not for me. And then upon rewatching it, before I did the rewatch, I was like, there has to have been something that I missed with Brave. Like maybe I wasn't paying attention, maybe, just something. I think I'm gonna like it a little bit more this time. I'm in the same spot with Brave again.
Yeah.
I'm not. This was lower on my list. This was lower. This was like
So-
maybe like 18, 19.
So I recently just watched it for the first time a couple days ago, and I watched it, and then I told the lady Chrome about it, and then I was like, yeah, I don't know, and then they explained it to me, and I completely missed what the story was trying to tell me, but they also kind of explained that this was probably another movie that was just more technical than it was.
Oh, the hair, the
the
hair
hair.
physics. Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of beauty in this film. I feel like a lot of it went into the technical aspect. They missed the faces though. Some of the faces are very uncanny valley. I also feel like sometimes it's hard to do a period piece in the real world, because this is real life Scotland. This is not like Onward in a fantasy made up world, but then have real life like dialogue. Like the mother was saying, oh, we just want to give you everything that we didn't have as children, and that line, like I was like, this sounds very much like family who has finally made it to middle class, and now the daughter does not want to go to like med school because the family is telling her to, but
Goodness,
instead
that was the reach.
That was to me. That was to me where it went, like the conversation they were having throughout the film. But I was like, this is supposed to be in Scotland at that time. Like, if you know what I mean, like my brain was always thinking, if the king says you're getting married, he's gonna be like, oh, you said no? Well, you're gonna say yes now. You know what I mean? That's always in the back of my mind.
Losing me.
I just saw it as like a tradition piece, like, you know, their tradition is to marry off the daughter to, you know, unite the lands together. I mean, a lot of monarchies do that. So I just thought, and you know, what's her name? It starts with an M. Merida. She doesn't want to do that. She's as wild as her hair. I know that was the whole point. You know, she's a fiery redhead. That was the whole point.
This is one of the movies where I was thinking, where like, if I would have liked it if it came out earlier, because I think it came out, if I'm right, it came out in 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Right, 2012. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was like, for like most of us, it was like our senior year. And I think I was like, for me, I was just transitioning into just like not kids movie kind of thing. And I was just like, oh, well, I don't think this movie's for me. So like, I definitely skipped it, and I watched it recently, and I was like, I wonder if I would have liked it if I saw it when it came out, or like if the movie came out earlier, if I would have liked it more. So like when on my list, I had it like pretty low on the list, but that's I think that's the only reason of it. It was pretty cool. Like the visuals were pretty awesome, but it didn't hit me.
No, that yeah. I mean,
the story was.
Oh,
the message was.
The message. I mean, one, I did skip this too in 2012. Didn't really interest me.
This was your first time watching it?
No, I watched it years ago, but after the theatrical release, I watched it for a second time yesterday.
Oh, I see.
Captain Falcon's first time, and she was like, "Well, what's it about? Give me a synopsis." I was like, it's like a girl who's rebellious.
Oh.
She butts heads with her mother, and then they have to come together because they don't see eye to eye. And honestly, the more I just thought about it just now too. One, when I was explaining to her yesterday, I was like, oh, you know, I kind of see elements of like Turning Red in here. You know, as far as as far as just kind of
because they both have red hair.
No, no, because of the mother. Because at the core of this movie, it is the mother and the daughter's relationship is at the core of this movie, and it's essentially kind of just
an animal.
Well, okay.
Oh,
the animal thing is okay because I know you got something to say about the animal thing.
They're both like bear-ish.
Well, no.
Oh my god!
They're both different.
Copy paste.
No, they're both different as far as the animal thing, but like at the core, it is women have a role to play. You have one of the women who does not want to conform to that role, and you know, it's and then it really came down to what did I think was a better film. But it's like both different aspects of the mother-daughter relationship. With that said, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie a lot better than my first outing with this movie. I think I had more of a, you know, kind of a better perspective on the kind of the world and like, you know, defying women's roles and the patriarchy and all that jazz.
I really like this film because it was about the mother-daughter relationship, but to me there was a lot of aspects of like personal growth too, and that's why the whole bear and her kind of seeing her mother, well, in the beginning where she's like, oh, don't do the archery, or like don't shoot because you're gonna make the men feel uncomfortable, you know, you're gonna embarrass them.
But no, she said you embarrass them.
So you embarrass them, and it's like, you know, she's in a situation where she's uncomfortable. But the whole aspect with the bear, and even the witch, what she said to remember those words, and she says, what does she say? She says, mend the bond, look inside, or something like that.
Oh, that was the riddle.
Mend the bond that was broken by pride.
Yeah, mend the bond that was broken by pride.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was to me it was like look inside yourself, look at those like negative emotions, those negative feelings that the mother was obviously trying to hide because she's trying to be perfect,
Right.
And then she gets turned into the bear, and then when she's like, oh, like you just turned into a bear, like you were a bear inside, or like, you know, you're gonna be a bear forever. And it was, to me, it was kind of a message of like, oh, you kind of have to embrace and look inside and embrace those imperfections and those negative emotions in order to like not become a bear forever, like not be this bitter person, of which she was obviously kind of bitter towards her daughter because she didn't want her to like, she wanted her to conform. So she turned into a bear. And then by the end of the movie, you see her hair loose and, you know, she's just embracing herself. So
she's free.
She's free.
Did you have this movie higher, Captain?
I did.
You did?
Because I just watched it yesterday. So I was like,
it's still fresh.
You know.
Recency bias.
I just feel like this movie could have been, I feel like some of the aspects of this movie could have been taken more seriously. Like in terms from like the filmmakers. I feel like the core is there, but did we need the three brothers being like existing?
Okay, so this is okay. With this film, similar to Soul, you have a woman director she's co-directing, right? I believe the woman director was brought on to bring this mother-daughter relationship to the forefront, but then they said we need to Pixarify it up, and that is where you get the characters such as the three brothers and the three clans. You know, wait, are you talking about? You said the three brothers. Are you talking about her little brothers or the clan?
I'm talking about her little brothers. Do we need them running around?
Oh, that's Pixar. That's Pixar.
It is Pixar.
I mean, what other like funny aspect would you throw in there if it wasn't the three little?
You don't have to throw in a funny aspect.
They had dogs. They had, you know, like they had things that, and also the clansmen themselves, like the clans and the father, they were, oh my god. But the clans themselves are really funny. Like they were like parts of the best part of the movie.
I didn't think they were.
Oh, I thought they were funny.
They
The three brothers are your eye candy for the children.
Yeah.
You know, because they're coming in sets of threes and then they turn into bears. It's a good movie.
Right.
But again, what you have is a disconnect between the co-directors. You know, it's like if you wanted to be taken more seriously, let the woman do the whole movie. You know,
and you know, I feel like, and there was such a disconnect between the parallel story of like uncovering the history of the four brothers and then having Merida's story. Like to me, I did not understand the connection until the Lady Crumb pointed it out.
I think that with like Mordu, wasn't the connection just the witch did the same thing?
No, the connection was that like
change their face.
Merida needed to learn to stop being a brat and only caring about herself. Like that, and then the older brother in the story only cared about himself, only cared about power, only cared about what he wanted. But in a position of power, he ended up destroying everything. That was the whole point of the story, apparently.
We need to see eye to eye. We need to see eye to eye, like Max and Goofy. They copy it and paste.
Copy and paste, as was Turning Red. Red hair, bear.
We'll get into why Turning Red is a better
characters.
film. We will get into why it's a better film.
This is where it's gonna get tough.
This is gonna get tough.
Luca. It's
number
Luca.
14. Why do you hate Luca so
I don't hate
much?
Luca, but Luca is not in my top 10.
You just hate Luca. Coco, don't
you're
dare.
Crazy.
Nope.
This is what was gonna happen. This is what was gonna happen. This was
Toy Story 4.
Oh, have we not done Toy Story 4?
We have not done Toy Story 4. Is it the worst out of all?
It's Toy Story 4. It's Toy Story 4.
Is it the worst?
Yes.
It is Toy Story 4.
No way. Oh,
it is at number 14.
The first
I think
Toy
Brave
Story.
is better than Toy Story 4.
Oh, those are fighting words there.
Toy Story 4 has one redeeming quality. 4 key. 4 key is the best part of Toy Story 4.
4 what? Forky, the character.
And you know what? No. I disagree. Toy Story 4
trash.
That was funny. I liked it.
Toy Story 4 is a very spiritual and existential film. Like, I think it was very well done, very well made. The animation is pristine.
Nobody disagrees. Nobody disagrees.
And what do you call it? I think that, like I said before to other people, and especially you, GrandMasterHoop, the Toy Story series is really about existentialism, and how humans deal with knowing that their time on Earth is limited, and also that maybe that their belief systems aren't the truth. That's what Toy Story is really about, the subtext of it. Toy Story 4 answered such a very spiritual question, and I love the message that it sent. When your God has basically abandoned you, what do? Go and help the community. Go and help other people.
Why didn't Gore do that in Love and Thunder?
Because he said, I'm just gonna kill the gods that abandoned me. Imagine if Woody said,
been a real better movie for
imagine
Toy
if
Story?
Woody said, "Come here, Bonnie, let's play."
Straight up Chucky.
No, I agree with you, Nino. It's just when it comes down to it, there are elements of Toy Story 4 that make it the inferior Toy Story film.
I think out of all the Toy Stories, it is the weakest one.
How do you have all the supporting Toy Story cast take the back seat?
I didn't like
in this movie.
It's a Woody movie.
No.
Call it Woody's story.
Toy Story 2 was a Woody movie.
True, very true.
It was very Woody centered. Toy Story 2 was very Woody centered.
Yes, it is.
To be very fair, all the Toy Stories are very Woody centered. But this was
too much. This was too much Woody.
No, this was very much I need to find a life outside the community that I've already built, and just live. I think it's a very deep and personal film. If you like thematic storytelling, if you free yourself of the expectations of needing to have the check boxes of having all the toys there and just go into it, it's a very good story with a very important theme.
Nobody's saying that's not, but are you saying these are the reasons this film should be higher? Are you saying it should be higher?
It should be higher.
I honestly think that and that's why I asked Dr. Jace if we were doing a tier list, because I was gonna be look, or not a tier list.
Yeah, tier list.
A tier ranking, because I would be okay, here's the S ranking, and then Toy Story, all the Toy Story films will be above S rank. Because you can't rank them. To me, all the Toy Stories took up 4 of my top 10, and I'm this is not fair. There's 4 great movies, and they're gonna take up the top 10, hog the top 10. So
well, this should alleviate you now, because Toy Story 4 is number 14. It won't take up anything in the top 10.
Do you think this movie would have been higher if it was just named something else? Because I didn't see for me, this movie was good, but I didn't see the Toy Story aspect too much of it compared to the other 3 movies. It didn't seem like a sequel out of all the following up Toy Story 3.
I mean, my main thing with it, because I do see what you're saying, because I didn't like how they did certain characters in this. Buzz, they made Buzz an idiot for some reason.
Buzz is the worst written character after Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
Toy Story 3, he was fine in Toy Story 3.
No, he was speaking Spanish the whole time.
But he was speaking Spanish at the end.
No, it was
in the middle of it.
That was
Spanish.
Spanish Buzz was at the end of the movie.
Spanish Buzz and Reset Buzz. They literally said, we don't know what to do with Buzz. Let's brainwash him.
Listen,
and then
I thought it was fine. Well, anyways, that was just Toy Story 3. We'll talk about Toy Story 3 when we get to it. But Toy Story 4, I felt like they did a disservice to him. I feel like from beginning to end, they had no idea what to do with Buzz. They just gave him that silly little what's that voice in your head, Buzz? Oh, that's your conscious. So Buzz takes that the entire movie, that running joke, and just runs it to the ground. What does my voice say? Buzz Lightyear Star Command, and he presses the buttons on his. Oh god, I was so aggravated every time he spoke.
Because he's Woody's lapdog. That's all he is. Let me go rescue Woody.
Well, he wasn't like that in Toy Story 1.
He was. I don't know.
Buzz has always been pretty dumb, and throughout the entire Toy Story films,
he's not dumb.
No.
Wait,
he was just very cool.
That
he was very cool, but he was also very dumb.
Cruel? Like
no, cool.
Oh, cool. Oh, he
like,
wasn't
very
dumb.
Cool.
I wouldn't say
Toy
Story 2. Toy Story 2,
like,
he was like the smartest one.
No,
I feel like
if there was like a physical problem, Buzz will be like the one like, oh, I know how to figure that out. But if you gave him like a book to read, he'd be like, I don't understand this. That's all I'm saying.
I guess he's not a book smart. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like you can do the same thing with Slinky's dumb. Slinky is actually dumb. I don't know. Toy Story 4.
Toy Story 4 is very forgettable to me. It's very forgettable. Like I don't remember everything that happened in Toy Story 4. And it took me 3 times. I fell asleep the first 2 times.
Goodness.
Third time I was able to watch the whole thing.
No.
There are parts in Toy Story 4 that I liked. Like I liked when he's walking with Forky on the road and he's like basically reminiscing about like what it means to be a toy and his memories with Andy. I thought it was nice. There were some nice parts.
Maybe I'm just a Toy Story 4 stan, but I loved all aspects of this movie. I loved the Bunny and Ducky. I loved
Keegan Michael Pio. Good.
I love that Woody ended up giving his voice box over to this. What's her name? I forgot her name.
It's not Dolly, is it? Is it Dolly?
No, it's somebody else. But I just loved he gave a part of himself away, knowing that he would never get it back, and ultimately he found you know what I mean. He found a way to live without being tied to an owner, without being tied to a kid.
No, yeah, I get that part.
But also, Toy Story means a lot for me. Very, very me specifically. I grew up. I love Toy Story. I had a Buzz Lightyear collection. One of my first toys that I remember getting, my 3 first toys that I remember honestly getting were Barney, Buzz, and Woody. And the Buzz and Woody would talk to each other. So they were this was a very personal movie going into this. I was very nervous. I had very high expectations. You don't touch Toy Story. I believe Toy Story, the first 3 are the best trilogy in movie, period. And
better than Star Wars.
It's a quadrilogy.
But he's not counting the 4th one. He just means the first 3.
I'm saying when it came in, but Toy Story 4, when I first saw it, and I don't watch it often because it puts me in a place where I just start sobbing, because I'm just so moved by the storytelling. But that's because it's very personal to me.
I will admit I did tear up upon first watching Toy Story 4 in theaters. I did not tear up so much the second time I watched it, but again, it comes after one of the most perfect trilogies. I agree with Nino. Toy Story 1 through 3, they're up there. And to make a sequel to one of those movies and kind of take a different direction with it was risky to make a sequel after Toy Story 3. It was even more risky to make a completely different type of story that exists outside of what the stories of Toy Story 1 through 3 told. Because the whole thing was centered around Andy, if he being Andy's toy, getting back into the room before Andy got home. Quick, Andy's coming! And they dropped to the ground. That was Toy Story 1 through 3. 4, they did something a little bit different.
That's why I was thinking that they should have just not even named it Toy Story 4. They should have just named it something else. And I would have given Bob even more for it, because everybody's expecting Toy Story 4, but they gave us a whole different branch. I mean, it's some of the same characters. Yeah, exactly. It was just
I would have felt like if they didn't call it Toy Story 4, no one would have gone to the movie.
Yeah, you do not call this film Toy Story 4. It's only you don't have Woody and Buzz in a movie and don't call it Toy Story. Listen, it's a rabbit hole. We could probably do a whole separate podcast on this because Nino actually has a really nice little tree of how the Toy Story films build off of one another and where they're leading to.
Interesting.
But it is Toy Story 4. It may not be the Toy Story 4 you might have wanted, but it's a nice little bow, if you want to call it that.
I would say it also is a divisive film, I guess, because like for a lot of the reasons, like maybe it doesn't feel like a Toy Story film, and maybe it does feel like an epilogue of sorts for Woody.
It feels like an epilogue
because an extended epilogue, but it has a great premise. Like, what if your owner doesn't want you, and it's not just because they forgot you or grew up,
you're broken or anything. Yeah. I think it's safe where it is. It could be a little bit higher, but I think I had it at like number 10, Toy Story 4. But next up at number 13, we have Inside Out. Which, I mean, again, like we said earlier, you can argue a lot of these movies back and forth on where they're placed because, I mean, this is where Pixar was at its best to a certain degree. Inside Out, no, not with Inside Out specifically. I mean, like this was during a time when, like, when Pixar would release a movie, you expected top quality. Nowadays, it's kind of like, I don't know, you might go to the theater and it might be mid-year or something.
Oh my God, Lightyear is a Pixar movie.
It's a Pixar movie. I keep forgetting that. And you know, we'll talk about mid-year, you know, towards the end.
Let me tell you, Inside Out, I had higher
expectations.
And so Inside Out, so y'all made a mistake. You said Pixar in the 2010s had a film come out every year. That is false. 2014, there was no Pixar film that came out that year. 2015 was the first year 2 Pixar films came out. The 2 films that came out were Inside Out first, and then The Good Dinosaur. And Inside Out, and you could give credit to Pete Docter. Pete Docter has not missed. Pete Docter did Monsters, Inc. He did Up, and then I believe Inside Out was his next thing. Inside Out was fantastic. Because, I don't know. It was just good. This is really good.
It was really good. Handled emotions like depression very well, I felt like. And it was something where because we kind of mentioned it with Soul, where what Soul was sold to us as was like a musical film, and then the gimmick was the whole, like, you know, afterlife thing. Inside Out, I don't consider the emotions a gimmick. No. Like, you know, like because you have the element of the main character, the little girl. I forgot her name. Is it Riley? Riley. Okay, you have Riley. You have that whole aspect of her growing up as a child, moving to a new city with her parents, learning to adapt in a new environment. And then you have the inside part, the emotions. But I feel like they work very well together.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll tell you why they work well together.
Is it Osmosis Jones? The Osmosis Jones.
Actually, yeah, it's kind of similar to Osmosis Jones. Wow, never thought about it because they're just personifications of what the girl is going through. It would have been a gimmick if Riley meets joy and sadness and goes on an adventure with joy and sadness. You know,
there's a draft. There's a draft of Pixar's movie with Inside Out where I guarantee you Riley meets the emotions. I know there is. I know. Oh God.
If there is,
and here's the clock. The clock they're up against. If Riley doesn't complete whatever and gets the MacGuffin in her brain, she will turn into an emotion.
Oh no!
That's the draft.
There's definitely a draft.
That would have lost me. It just worked really well just watching because like Osmosis Jones, you just kind of see how it's playing out in her, whatever part of that brain is. And I think they nailed kind of just like the child type of struggles that children go through, you know, or what children could go through. Because by the end of it, I was feeling for Riley. I was like, damn,
That hit.
moving away from your
hit.
friends, not knowing if your new home could be your new home, and not being able to tell your parents either.
And saying it's okay to be sad. It is okay to do
Oh,
that was the big, I love, that was, to me, that was the chef's kiss
Yeah.
of the,
how
of
the-
film.
then and then that the sadness and joy could coexist
yes.
in one place. Like that was like this movie did I have to give this movie a lot of respect because apparently it did a lot for like therapy and like children's therapy and how they understand emotion.
I can see, wow, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
So and they did a lot of research into like how they displayed like emotions and memory and things like that. So this movie should get a lot more props. It's a very important film. So, and I think anyone with kids should at one point watch it.
100%. This is one of Pixar's. I had this a lot higher. I'm surprised it was at 13. This is because what's above it. I guess some of the things above it are, you could argue. So Inside Out, 13. Number 12. What's at number 12 here?
No, it's got to be Luca. I'm sorry, I keep saying.
Why do you think Luca's at every point? You're like,
It's
oh
gotta
God,
be
I hope
Luca.
Luca's not any higher. I
It's
hope
gotta
Luca's
be
so
Luca.
good though.
I'm not.
Maybe
I'm
it is
not
Luca.
saying it's not good. It's just the way it is.
Or maybe it's
Compared-
Ratatouille.
The top 10
No,
are like
no.
Up.
It's
no, it's Luca.
Maybe it's
Is it
up.
turning
Maybe
red?
it's up.
No, it's Luca.
Grandmaster has sabotaged the tier list because he clearly knows what's next, and it's Luca.
No, it's just the other films that are left are insurmountable. Luca does not pass the other films on this
Luca-
list.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let everyone else, and then I'm gonna talk as a queer person for a second. So
Luca was fine. I liked it.
Get it out as a non-queer person. Hurry. We're running out of time.
Yes, we've been going at it for quite some time.
Yeah.
Oh no, I meant because Nino is coming at it from a queer
right.
perspective.
Okay, got it. I mean, no, I thought it was a cute little movie. You know, a fish out of water type of thing. Literally, fish out of water. I thought it was fine. I think I had it a little bit lower, but not just because I thought it was bad. I just thought some of these other movies that we have left were that much better. But Luca, I feel like, was still a good return to form with Pixar after they've gotten out of their sequelitis, influenza, and now they're making original movies. I feel like Luca is a respectable entry where Pixar is going back and doing original ideas. I think you could argue, yeah, Luca's where they really decided to make a return to form.
Yeah. When it comes to originality and
Right.
and just like different perspectives and different things like that, going to like a whole different what is it, like country, and just basing around that area is actually really, really good. Yeah, I respect it a lot. I had it a little bit higher, and I don't know. It was like one of those movies where I actually got back into going Pixar for, and it hit me as I wanted to hit.
You say that, Bombastic. It's the same thing with Luca for me. I was kind of like tuning out of Pixar movies unless it was something like Toy Story 4. Of course, I'm going to go see Toy Story 4. But the movies before that, I was kind of like just seeing them when I could see them. Like, okay, I'm not going to lose sleep over missing out on watching this new Pixar movie day one. Luca was the one where I was like, oh, wow, Pixar actually did a good job again.
Yeah.
So now I'm back into this.
Funny how you say that though, because Luca, Soul. Okay, back Onward had to go to Disney Plus, right? Because the theaters were shutting down. There was a big debate whether or not Soul would be in theaters. Soul got the Disney Plus push as well.
Right.
Well, actually, no. Soul was the pay $30, and you could you could watch it on Disney Plus, or you could find a theater that was open. Luca, back when things kind of calmed down, it was like, is Luca gonna be in theaters or Luca gonna be straight to Disney Plus? Disney went over Pixar's head. They said it's going straight to Disney Plus. And if you didn't see it right away, it's because you didn't have to anymore, because now you have this streaming service. It wasn't $30. It was just straight up, it's there. It's on Disney Plus. Well, so when people did find Luca, they would find it was actually very enjoyable. I feel the best part of Luca, and I think about it now, it reminds me of like a Studio Ghibli film, like a Miyazaki type film. It's just kind of, it's centered in one setting. It's a relatively simplistic plot with a mythical or a magical element, but it's like, again, they just want to win a bike race and they want a Vespa.
It's something very simple.
But it's like an onion. There's a lot of layers to it.
There's a lot of layers.
There's a lot of layers.
We're not in DreamWorks. We're not in DreamWorks.
Right. So it was very well done. There's issues of abandonment, acceptance, and all that stuff, and it works. I go ahead, Captain Falcon, because I know Nino's gonna go in.
I know, and I don't want to say too much, but yeah, I like the film. I think that, and I'm not speaking from a queer person's perspective, but I think that they danced around the idea and they didn't acknowledge it, and that was the problem with the film. Is like, yeah, let's allude to it, but we're not gonna outright say it, and we're also gonna do it, put it right to Disney Plus and not give it like the theater time. So that was my issue, was like, yeah, let's tiptoe around it, but not actually say it. So
fair enough. Go ahead, Nino.
I agree, but finding out a lot more information, like, especially I think this year that we found out that they were stopped. Yeah, they were stopped from saying it outright. Like they completely stopped. They're like, nope, you can only. This was the most that they could get away with, but they had every intention of making Luca a queer film. I really do appreciate it, because the gimmick in this is that they can turn, they can turn into humans, but if they get wet, they're sea monsters or whatever, and whatever, the merman
sea monsters.
Yeah. And I think this is a very, very, very queer film, even if they don't state it, because the gimmick enhances that. This is something that they can hide, but there are certain situations where they can't hide it, and then they stick out like a sore thumb, even though they're functionally very similar to regular people, quote unquote. And then having the two ladies who like were best friends and then lived together, and then they turned out, and then
they came out. Yep,
that was in your face. Yeah,
that was again. They tried to do so much with this film, and they were like held back by like the Disney overlords who think that like, oh, mentioning a wife and then cutting it out for
Lightyear,
for cutting it out for other like countries like is okay. Like this was very, like, I really enjoyed this. I really like, this is a very comfort film. I love the ending. The ending was very nice. Yeah, the train sequence, and then they don't know if they're, it's a promise to see each other next time. Very Studio Ghibli.
Right. I didn't even consider like a Studio Ghibli comparison, but now we're talking about it. It does elicit those kind of vibes.
And I think that's why I had a higher rank, because I love Studio Ghibli's movies. So that's the main reason why I was thinking like, oh, like I really enjoyed this film a lot.
No, it's one of the better Pixar films. Coming in at number 11. What do we have at number 11? Oh, this is where you're kind of, I don't know.
I would have to say Toy Story 2.
What?
Sorry. It didn't break my top 10.
No, that if Toy Story 2 is not in your top 10, then that means you did your list wrong.
No,
You're
my
bad.
list is fine.
You're
My
bad.
top 10.
Toy Story 2 is not in your top 10.
Mine, it's in my top.
I have
Thank
two,
you, Captain.
I have two Toy Story films in my top 10. Toy Story 2 and 4 are not one of them.
This is outlandish. You know what?
know
Let me just break the ice already with this. It is up.
Yeah.
It is up.
What?
I think
agree.
up. I think it's fine. It has its intro. Everyone likes going back to the intro, saying it's sad, very teary-eyed, and it is. It is very emotional in the beginning. But that's up. I feel like that's all up really has going for it, outside of the silliness with like the dodo bird.
Whoa.
It has
Kevin and Doug.
it has some subtext. It has the whole thing with the house being
Yes.
representative of the wife and
Yeah.
him being able to let go. He's finally able to let go at the end.
Literally and
Lit-
figuratively.
Yes,
That-
exactly.
Yeah. I think Up has a really great visual storytelling with the house. The only problem is that's the only great visual storytelling of that, like, in the entire movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And I had it as my favorite film like a couple years back, but I
Your
went
number
back and
one?
watched
Your
it.
number one?
Yeah, my number one. I thought it was the
Ooh.
best, but then I was like, oh, I rewatched it and I was like, no, this movie definitely has some issues and some shenanigans going on.
The villain part of it was, I feel like it was stretched out. Like they were trying to stretch things out, so they were like, look, let's just make a villain and let's just like have like a fight sequence, things like that.
Well,
Old man fight.
I will say this as far as the villain goes. I forget his name, but he's played by Peter O'Toole.
Charles Muntz.
Charles Munch.
Charles Bronze, yeah.
No, he's necessary because he is he's representative of what happens when you don't let go,
right.
and
Right.
when it becomes obsession.
I never thought of that actually.
Yeah, that's
Right.
totally
he wanted
his
to clear
thing.
his name with the bird, the exotic bird, because people
Right.
told him he was a quack, and he was like, "No, quack you," and he went to go find the bird. And he
Yeah,
spent- yeah,
and that's how the people were starting to look at Carl, right? Carl Fredricksen, right?
Mr. Fredricksen.
Yeah, because he was just that grumpy old man who didn't want anybody touching his house,
Get off my
coming
lawn.
on his porch. Yeah, get off my lawn. He whacked that guy with his cane in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know,
And you know what? This movie
And then
lost
lost
a
it.
lot of points for me when you realize the original concept of the house and having people like take it out and not wanting to move and being in a neighborhood was literally stolen from Ditto's Thank You music video.
who?
And I wanna thank you. Na 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 na.
You lost me.
No.
You lost me.
Oh,
Me too.
I guarantee you've heard the song, but Ditto is okay. You know Eminem Stan, like that song. Everybody knows that song,
Yeah.
Yes,
right?
Stan, yes.
Yeah.
The song that
The
Stan is
sample.
based on, the sample. That original song's music video by
Was-
Ditto
Was up.
was literally up,
Oh.
except with a
Yeah.
woman.
Send
Okay.
it in the chat so
Yeah.
I will.
so we can decipher
Oh, I will.
this puzzle.
There even is a Bustle article. This Ditto music video and Pixar's Up are way alike.
Sure.
So
Okay. I will trust your comparison.